It's so great to have Judy with me today. She is a longtime friend, and we started long ago with an experience with her twins. So, Judy, tell us a little bit about when you found me, when you found the Nerd Developmental approach, and what was going on with your children at that moment, that time.
Well, they were 10 years old. They were supposed to be going into the fourth grade. Should have been, supposed to be going into fourth, but were going into third. They'd already been held back a year. They were reading on a first grade level. They could not write their own names. Their names are 4 letters long, and they could not write them.
Dear.
Yeah, they had no future. They were writing in a complete mirror image. Both of them could write it, and both of them could read it, and neither of them noticed that it was backwards. They could not write a word from the board onto their paper. You could not decipher what it was, even though it's right there. They had no future.
So they were in public school, is that right?
Yes, they were in public school. And the public school wanted to put them in special ed and teach them to compensate for dyslexia. And I said, no, we're not compensating. We need to be learning. So a friend of mine actually had your information and gave it to me.
Okay, so then when you got that information, they changed schools, right?
Well, I brought them home. I was already bringing them home, and my friend that had your information, she was a homeschooler. And, you know, as all homeschoolers get requested, will you help me start? I asked her to help me, and she said, sure. And she said, you might be interested in this information that she had for one of her children. I said, yes. I mean, it was a God thing. I knew this was the answer that we needed. And so I called you and begged you for an appointment. I don't know if you remember, but I was your biggest pain in the neck.
Well, I do remember you were very tenacious.
Yes. I just knew that it was it.
It's so interesting because I just had a call this morning from a lady that, well, she called our office, and she had listened to one of my live broadcasts on dyslexia. And she said, we just know this is answer to prayer because that's what we've been praying. And so I love it when that happens, when we can be answered to prayer. Brought them home, and then they're identical twins, right?
Yes.
And so we determined that one of them was using the wrong hand.
Right.
And what I remember is that one of them was using the wrong hand, and then the other one was kind of holding back because they.
The one using the wrong hand was holding back. The other one was using the wrong eye and ear, and he had the most trouble.
Okay, so we had some dominance issues both with the hand and then the eye and the ear with the two of them. So tell me a little bit about, I remember distinctly, because this is going to date us now. We were on the phone with a cord. I was on the phone with a cord trying to cook and trying to reassure you were on the right track.
Yes, absolutely. I was the biggest pain in the neck because I thought I wouldn't tell anybody what I was doing because I thought, oh, even my older children were going to call CPS and take these kids away. It was so weird. But I will say this, after 3 months, they were not reversing anything at all. And the one that was using the wrong hand, he said to me, and I didn't work with them together all the time, so they said these things to me privately, just between the two of us. So he said, I just don't feel so angry all the time.
Oh,
Wow. And the
yeah.
other one said to me, he says, I never knew I was so smart. Hello. Yes. That's in 3 months. 3 months. Our
That
brains
is
were different. Yes.
that's so amazing. And it's interesting that you brought that up about there's self-esteem. You know, a lot of times when these really smart kids have this disorganized brain, they're feeling like they're not smart because they see other people doing stuff and they're
Right.
not able to do it. So,
They thought they were stupid, which is why I took them out of school, because at least being at home, I could convince them they were smart. So I did that every summer, but how many summers would I be able to do that? So I brought them home, not knowing what to do, but I brought them home. And of course, found you, and our lives were different. But at least thinking you're smart is a whole lot better than thinking you're dumb. One of them said to me before I took him out of school, he said, "Oh, I won't be able to do that. I'm not smart enough." And broke my heart. And it was from watching kids in school that could do what they knew they couldn't do. They couldn't write
mhm.
that word off the board. They couldn't read those pages. They couldn't write their names, for heaven's sakes. When you have a name that's 4 letters and you can't write it, you got a problem.
Yes. And I'm sure the teachers were, they're not really equipped
No.
for this kind of thing. And so they didn't know what to do to help them.
No, put them in special ed, teach them to compensate. No,
Well,
no.
that's really the difference right there in a nutshell of what nerd development is versus um, the traditional approach. The nerd developmental approach is going to get to the root and stimulate the brain so it has new pathways. So,
One of the
go
things you
ahead.
told me in the beginning, because the schools said they had to teach them to compensate, and you told me dyslexia was a symptom. It wasn't the problem. You get rid of the problem, the symptom goes away. And that is exactly what happened. We didn't treat dyslexia, we treated the problem that they were having, and dyslexia went away.
So that's really I'm actually doing a series on dyslexia right now, the different parts of it that people don't really realize. They think that it's just you put them through the dyslexia program. Now, this was like 30 years ago, right?
They just turned
When they
40,
so yeah, 30 years ago. And
and they can
um,
write their names.
they're very successful young men now.
Yes, yes, they're very smart. They were always smart. They just didn't know it.
Right, right. So, uh, can you elaborate on any of the symptoms that you think that they were having that we worked on? I mean, obviously the dominance was one. Their processing was low, I remember.
Sound processing was low. They're, we worked on all kinds of thinking skills and processing, but a lot of dominance. We did a lot of dominance, especially the one that had the wrong hand. We had to switch him over. That was
Right.
difficult.
Yes, by the time you're 10 and you've been using that hand for a long time,
It
then
was my fault. It was my fault that he used the wrong hand, because he would pick up a pencil with his left hand and I would say, "No, not that hand, this one." I did it to him. And I have another child that's left-handed, but I did that to him.
well, a lot of times people either don't know or don't think about it at the time. You know,
He used both hands.
mhm. And our right-handed mentality says, "Oh, use your right because it's easier."
Well, his brother was using his right hand. It's funny. One of the things that was very noticeable with him is he was not very athletic. Like he could not dribble a basketball. He could not shoot a basket. His brother could, but he couldn't. And after, we started on this program, the only time he couldn't is if he was using his right hand. So if he changed to his left hand, he could dribble that ball, he could shoot that basket and hit it every time. It was miraculous. I mean, it felt like, wow, how did that happen? And he did too. He stood right there and went, oh, I can hit it. It was amazing. He could do all kinds of
That's
things.
well, when you are going against the genetic grain, the way God made you, then things are a lot more difficult. I've had many children over the years that were using the wrong hand, and when that got switched over, they just took off like a rocket. So
Yeah.
that was interesting.
He was the one that was so angry.
Mm.
Wrong hand. He was very angry all the time.
So it's interesting. What I've seen is oftentimes, even if it's an eye or ear, there's more um, emotionality oftentimes.
Mm.
But especially, you can imagine trying to push through something like push through a gate, and you just need to turn the latch on so that it opens instead
Yeah.
of trying to push through.
Yeah.
That's it. And I love that nerd development is so comprehensive, like did you notice more coordination, for instance, as they went work through their program?
More coordination and more calmness. They were, before that they had rages, as toddlers, they had temper tantrums. The one with the wrong hand especially, I mean, he flopped in the floor over everything and he quit. And now, now he's the calmest guy that you've ever seen. His children have fits and he's like, oh, come on. I mean, just calm, just total. He went from one extreme to the other.
That is so great. So, over the years of the different people I've talked to, they have had unusual consequences. They come in and they go, "Oh, I want them to read," or their
Hmm.
emphasis or their thinking is about academics, but all kinds of other things happen. Anything else that you can think of besides the calmness?
They work together better. Of course, identical twins, I think, are tied together in their brain in ways that we don't really know. And they did better at that. They did better cooperating with each other. With me too, but with them, with each other even.
Well, that's great.
Yeah,
So,
sort
so
of. Not
what was
always.
that?
I said sort of, not always so great. You don't want them, like when they were in Boy Scouts, they weren't allowed to be on the same team for different games because they linked.
Twins are a definite little idea of their own, aren't they?
Yes, yes. And I'll tell you, before we did this, they were at a camp and uh, they had a race with different scout troops. They were in Boy Scouts, and they were supposed to paddle a canoe out and back faster. And so their troop wanted them to do it because they were really good together. But they got out there and started arguing about which way to turn and lost because they're still out there arguing. And that's one of the things that really calmed down a lot as, they got better at everything. Their whole personalities calmed down. They just became more, I don't want to say interested, but where they could concentrate on something.
Mm-hmm. So how did you homeschool the rest of the time? What was their journey after that?
I homeschooled them all the way through high school. They went so far ahead, in the first year that we did this program, they were, I think they came up 8 or 9 grade levels in reading. Well, now what are you going to do with them? They can't go back in the 4th grade. They're reading on a high school level. It was crazy. So I kept them home. And we did amazing things. They did amazing things.
Yeah, homeschool offers so many options to just let them go in the direction that they're gifted in.
Yeah.
So that's great. So they came up with a dyslexia. Did they actually have a dyslexia label
In public school, they
in
did. Yeah.
school?
Yeah.
Hmm.
You
So I
didn't
didn't.
give them that label. I asked you if they were dyslexic, and you said, no, we would call them easy. I said, easy? You said, easy to fix. Well, okay. And one of the
You
things
were
I told you in the beginning, I said, okay, I'm going to do this till I know it doesn't work. Well, I never stopped doing it. I guess it worked.
Oh, I was thrilled to see their progress. It's just amazing to be involved, along the way and see their journey and that kind of thing. Tell us a little bit about what happened as an adult. Where are they now? What have they done after school?
Well, they both went in the military. They became Marines. And they aced their entrance. They have to take a test to get in to tell them what level they can do. And they made almost perfect scores on them. And they wanted them to go into intelligence. That's what they wanted them to do, which takes a really high score. And neither one of them wanted to. And their recruiters told me, they said, it's these guys that are so smart like this. They know they can do any of that. They want to know if they can do the physical stuff. So they went in
Mhm.
infantry. I didn't get a vote. So that's what they did. One of them has almost completed 20 years in the military. He'll retire soon. The other one got out. He's head of security at a Christian high school. And he has
And
done very innovative things with their security, which is now spreading to other private schools. He's going and giving lectures on what he does and how he does it. They had no future. They could not do the one that's in the National Guard. He's a lineman also. He could not do what he's doing if he was dyslexic. He'd be electrocuted. And the other one could not write these papers or present these things at these meetings. He couldn't do what he's doing if they had that issue. Even
well,
compensating.
all right, Judy. Well, I am so excited about the progress that your children made. It was amazing to work with you. You were the most tenacious mom. You wanted to know every answer. You wanted to do it right, and you really got results. So at this point, what would you tell other moms that have a child with dyslexia?
Do this program and do it all. Do everything they tell you. No matter how crazy it sounds, do it. Because some of it sounds crazy, but it works. It is miraculous. It works.
Well, it's really based on God's amazing ability that He's given our brains to have plasticity, to uh, grow and to change. And when we do stimulate the brain in all those areas, the function really does follow. And your boys are a testament to that. So I'm so thankful to have been a part of their journey.
We are so thankful for you. We thank God for you all the time. Because, like I said, you gave my sons a future. They had no future without you,
Well,
except to be compensating. And I know people that compensate. It is way different than not having it.
way different and way harder.
Yeah,
It it really releases the full potential of the individual instead of just having to limp along. I think that's what compensating is, really.
right. And they are remarkable men. They truly are. And they would not have been without you. Without this program and all the things that you had us do, which, I spent a lot of time on the phone with you going, oh. But I mean, I did what I said I would do. I did it until I knew it didn't work, and I found out it did work remarkably well. But they would have had drastically different lives without it. And I was glad
Well,
that I wasn't willing to compromise and compensate their lives for that.
it's a it's a rare and wonderful mom that can, I mean, you really, in working with two at one time on program, that is not an easy task, and you did it very well.
Wow. I I tend to be hard-headed.
Is there anything, parting words that you'd like to say to anybody? Anything that you haven't said yet?
Take a deep breath and dive in and just endure it, because some of it you have to endure in the beginning. And once you see progress, then it becomes easy. Then nothing is hard when you see that progress. It is miraculous.
All right. Well,
You
thank you
know,
for being with us.
you took my children from being totally frustrated with reading, and they wanted to read. They wanted to do these things, and they couldn't. And you took them from that place to being able to read the encyclopedia. That's what they wanted to do, was read the encyclopedia. And they thought they were stupid. Totally different. So
Well,
we thank you
it
tremendously.
was a it was a godsend for me, and I'm privileged to offer that to other families. So
Yes,
thanks so much for being with us to encourage other
absolutely.
families.
Absolutely.